no business in Washington state is at fault for the layoffs that they unfortunately and regretfully had to make in order to comply with the governor's orders. The current round of layoffs was caused by an act of God and exacerbated by the governor and the state's response to that act of God. And again, not arguing whether or not the response was good or justified on public health grounds, but even if it was, it's impossible to argue that those decisions have devastated our economy and devastated many employers and many small businesses for whom their business was their lifetime of work. And so, Madam Speaker, it defies all fairness, all concepts of fairness to tell employers that the employees they had to lay off, not because they didn't like the employees, not because they didn't love and care for the employees, but because they simply couldn't make ends meet by keeping the employees on payroll while they were being closed down or operations curtailed dramatically, to tell them that they still have to bear the financial responsibility for those costs is fundamentally unfair, Madam Speaker. And so the amendment that was put down that was offered by the gentleman from the 18th District would have gone a long way towards solving that unfairness. And the underlying bill takes one step towards that goal. So it's not like this goal is totally foreign to supporters of the bill. We all agree we need to do this. It's just a question of how far we should go. And I don't think this bill goes as far as it could or should. The gentleman from the 35th District suggested that we make a one-time transfer from the rainy day fund into the unemployment trust fund. And I fundamentally disagree with the notion that this would be unnecessary or would hurt businesses. It's quite necessary. For one, the amount of claims that were paid out over the last year was far higher than anybody could have expected, and it put a lot of unexpected strain on the system. And again, much of that strain was not because employers were acting irresponsibly, but instead it was because they were acting responsibly. They were complying with the governor's orders. But perhaps even more critically, Madam Speaker, a huge reason why the trust fund balance is not as high as it otherwise could have been is because the Employment Security Division paid out over $600 million in fraudulent claims to Nigerian scammers. And while some of that money has been recovered, not all of it has been recovered. So there remains a lower trust fund balance than otherwise would have existed had that fraudulent activity, those fraudulent claims not been negligently paid. And Madam Speaker, I analogize it to if you have money in a bank account and your bank gets robbed. If that happens, the bank doesn't call you up the next day and say, I regret to inform you, Madam Speaker. It would be weird if the bank called you Madam Speaker, but they also would say that they would not say that we regret to inform you our bank was robbed, and if you want your money back, you have to redeposit the same amount. Of course not. The bank would make the customer whole for the amount of the customer's funds that were stolen. So why on earth is Washington State not doing the same for our employers? We allowed, on our watch, the state of Washington, we allowed scammers to infiltrate our system, and we paid out far more money than was necessary or proper. That is our fault. We should not tell our state's employers that they are on the hook to reimburse us for our faults. We, the state of Washington, should replace those losses, and that's what the gentleman from the 35th District's amendment would have done. And it would not have been simply money for money's sake. It would have been tied directly to the experienced rating account to allow businesses to reduce their taxes owed, which would have helped even more. And lastly, Madam Speaker, we had another opportunity to allow businesses to defer their unemployment taxes by up to 2 quarters. I think that remains something that we ought to continue to look at. Will that solve the problem for every business? No. Does it negate the benefit the underlying bill will have? No, but many businesses are really struggling. There are businesses that will not exist by the time they are allowed to fully reopen. And for a few businesses out there, allowing deferral of UI taxes for 2 quarters might be avoiding the straw that breaks the camel's back. So, Madam Speaker, I realize the necessity for this bill. I am deeply appreciative to you and the gentleman for the 38th District for making it such a big priority and making it one of the bills we pass, one of the first bills we passed this session. I just wish we could have done more. I do agree with what others have said that I think taking some of these amendments and sending it back to the Senate would not have caused an undue delay. We've heard from the Employment Security Division that they only needed a bill by early to mid-February. I don't think anybody is suggesting that we take up the rest of session to pass this bill, but we could have added some good amendments that would have helped our small businesses stay afloat and still gotten the bill to the governor's desk in time for the Employment Security Division to offer the rate relief that our small businesses need. So I sincerely hope, Madam Speaker, that you and the gentleman from the 38th District and others will continue to address this issue as session goes on, because I do think that more help is needed. But and while I wish a lot more could have been done in this bill, and I think it could have been easily done, it still is better than doing nothing. And so for that reason, I'm urging a yes vote.